Hi, and welcome to Crafts by Two. I'm Ken. And I don't know where George is. Okay, what are you doing on the floor? We're doing part 3, laying font art. It's not laying, it's layered font art. Really? So as I was saying, this episode is layered font art. We're building on what we started with the basic techniques for manipulating text in Inkscape and then grouping it and making an SVG. Now we get to do some really cool stuff with it. So you'll see we get to do some really fun layered effects with our text. Everybody thinks we're the Inkscape experts, but we're still learning some things too. The first one actually helps out a lot. Before, I was showing you that to select text, you needed to use the text tool and then click and drag, or click and hold down Shift to make your selection. Then you could use things like the Alt arrow keys to move your text around. A big discovery for me was that all you have to do is take the text tool and click into your text item, and then if you use the movement key, and I'm going to do the Alt Shift arrow key to do a big jump, it moves everything to the right of the cursor without you having to select it. Then for rotation, it'll rotate the character immediately to the right of the cursor. So you can do all that text manipulation without having to select the text. It makes the work go by really quickly. Another thing I wanted to take a moment to point out was in the demo, I showed how you can use these arrows to distort or resize your text. What I didn't show you is you can also take this a step further. If we take this text and do Object to Path, and then ungroup, these are now individual objects, and we can manipulate them individually. So I can do something like this for a little bit of fun. And I can just take this, and if you click on it once more, these turn into rotating arrows instead of resizing arrows. So I can just swing this a little and then drag it over. If I was really doing some font art with this, I'd probably smush all this together using the movement tools and try to group it, maybe making this a little bit bigger so it was readable, but you get the idea. You can make a fun little sentiment just by resizing the items individually and dragging them around. Now we're going to get started doing font art with layered mats. I've already gone ahead and created this text sentiment, totally awesome! And I'm ready to bring like a totally awesome vibe to this. I've used all the techniques we've already covered. I manipulated the text by moving it to smush it together and rotating things to kind of give a little bit of that curve. And then I used the techniques from our last video where I showed you how to make this into a path and group it all together. This is all one object at this point. If I click it, you'll see there's only one outline. These aren't separate words at this point. You can do this with multiple phrases like I'm doing here, or you could do this with a single font art that you've created. If it's just a single word like love or joy or thanks, you don't have to do phrases like I'm doing here. If you don't have the pointer tool chosen already, click on it on the toolbar, and then click on your object to select it. And again, the outline lets us know that it's selected. We're going to go up to Path and do Linked Offset. You'll notice it's still kind of selected. It's got this dotted box around it. Our arrows are gone, and there's one node. And this node is going to be what we're going to use in just a moment. But before we do that, let's set it to a color that we want this new layer to be in the background. I'm going to start with a bright red. And before we do anything, you're going to go to the Object menu and say Lower to Bottom. You haven't seen anything yet, but that linked offset created a bit of a duplicate of our phrase. And we wanted that to be in the background, so that's why I used that command to send it to the background. While everything's still selected, you're going to come to this node and click and drag up. And there's my outline. You can go as big and chunky as you want. I'm just going to do a simple outline here. And don't worry about these little gaps you see in the background. We're going to take care of those in just a little bit. If you're happy where everything is, you're going to go to Path and say Object to Path. Now it's converted that linked offset into its own object. I can click over here on the pointer tool, and it's left my outline selected, and I want another layer. All I have to do is repeat those steps. With my new outline selected, going to Path, Linked Offset, and choosing a new color. Let's do kind of this orangey brown. Actually, let's do a yellow at this point. And while I've got the color selected, I go to Object, Lower to Bottom, come over to the node, and drag up. Happy where that is? Path, Object to Path. I want another layer. All I have to do is repeat the steps again. Path, Linked Offset, choose my orangey brown color, and send it to the back with Object, Lower to Bottom, and then drag the node. And I'm good with that. So Path, Object to Path. There you go. I think I'm going to click on my text, and to continue the jarringly retro theme, let's go purple. Now, that is totally awesome. But we still have these little gaps in the image, and we don't really want those there. So to work on them, we're going to click on my top layer, so the purple in this case, and I'm going to go to Object and Lower to Bottom. I want it out of the way while I'm working on things. Now we're going to come over to the Node tool, click, and select our red layer. And there's a lot of the nodes here making up the outline of our shape, and you'll see there's some little extras in the center. To work with that, we're going to zoom in using the Force shortcut that I mentioned in our previous video. Now I can just kind of click and drag to lasso these extra nodes and hit delete on the keyboard to remove them. If you accidentally choose something you want to keep and delete it, like for example if I drag and deleted a chunk of my letters, don't forget Undo is your friend. Go to the Edit menu, Undo, and you can make a better selection again. Also, don't forget, you can zoom in further using the plus key and then zoom out with the minus key. If you need to get in tight, you can zoom in with the plus key and then select and delete your items. And zooming in, I didn't even see that over there. So let me just scroll around a little, make sure I got, whoops, everything I want to clear up. See, zooming in helped me see these two. And you want to clean up these extra little nodes, especially those tiny ones, because Design Space or your cutting software will try to cut these. So I think we're good with the red layer. I'm going to press 5 to zoom back out to the whole document. And while this is still selected, I can come up to Object and lower it to the bottom. Now it looks like I've got the yellow selected, but I actually still have the red selected. The easiest thing to do is click off somewhere, then click back on your layer, and we're just going to quickly repeat the process. And at this point, I don't want that space in the center, so I'm going to select all that and get rid of it. And looks like it's time to zoom in. And I'm just using the scroll bars at the sides and the bottom of the window. Oops, I always scroll the wrong way. Okay, it looks like the yellow layer's cleared up. Let's zoom back out. Yep, that looks good. And I want to send it to the back. Object, lower to bottom. And I'm left with the brown layer. So let's clear up these things in the center. And it looks like I've got some challenges here, so let's zoom in. And here's this stuff at the bottom. There's actually quite a lot going on here. You can see as I zoom in further. Whoops. There's tons of nodes piled here on top of each other. Because when we do that linked offset and we're dragging it out, it's kind of spinning all those paths of the text around. And it can leave a lot of artifacts. For this, I want to step back out. I'm zooming with the 4 key, and I'm going to use a new command, going to Path and Simplify. That's going to get rid of all the extra nodes, but yet still try to keep the shape I was going for. Because this is so blobby and doesn't really have to be super defined, I could get away with that simplification. I don't need to keep all those extra nodes to really get this shape. But I still have some cleaning up to do, so I'm going to zoom back in. And down here, there's this weird extra loop. I've clicked on the one node this time and hit delete on the keyboard, and that worked out for this one. Whoops. Now let's get over to the side, because there was a crazy line over here. So there's a lot going on here. Let's see if deleting it works out. And again, as I get real close, I was doing this one by one, and that looked like it worked out too. I guess I've been pretty lucky with this. And here we go. it looks like our shape's complete, but we've got these long handles going off into space. Another quick tip is we've been able to click on a node and delete it, and they're either a square or a diamond. Handles have these circles. You can't click on a handle and delete it, but you can hold down the control key on the keyboard and then click on a handle and it goes away. I just have to find the end of this long one and hold down control on the keyboard and click on the handle and it goes away. So it looks like that one's pretty good too. I don't know about this part over here with that big notch. I'm going to just clear these out too, clicking on them one by one. And again, these handles will bend the line. So I can bring this up and manipulate it a little. Let's bring our text back. So we've been pushing everything to the bottom, so that's going to layer everything properly again, because we started with the text, and then we pushed the one layer behind that, the next layer behind those two, and now we're going to go to Object, and lower to bottom, and we pushed that back. And actually, I wasn't thinking. It was a bad decision to get rid of that notch. So don't forget, undo is your friend. I'll have a few steps to go through, but I can keep going edit, undo, until I'm back to how I wanted it to be. I think that's where we were. Yep. And just like undo is your friend, under edit, redo can also be your friend. We want to redo that, getting rid of that handle I deleted, because I went one step too far. So Inkscape remembers the last few steps we did and made it really easy to fix that mistake. Now, once again, I want to send this layer to the background. I go up to Object and lower to the bottom. And there we have their totally awesome art. It looks like Simplify might have simplified my shape a little too much, but I don't think it's that bad. Let's save this as an SVG and bring it into Design Space. I had already been working in a document that was saved with a name, so I need to go to File, Save As, but you could always do Save if you're in a brand new document that hasn't been saved yet. And I'm going to call this Totally Awesome and change the file type to a plain SVG. And making sure I'm on my desktop because I want to find things easily, I click Save. Now let's hop over to Design Space and import this file. Upload image, vector upload, browse. Oh, it helps to spell Totally Awesome. Right, my spelling is not very awesome. At least I got it right there. Saving my image. And now bringing that into my project. And I'm going to resize this, cutting it up to 12 inches. And let's go. So my 4 layers look like they're going to cut well. Totally Awesome in purple. Then my first layer in red. My next layer in yellow. And the final layer in that orangey brown. So I think that was a totally awesome project. I hope you enjoyed this totally awesome demonstration, and you're going to be able to use these layered mats or offsets in your own designs. I really want to see what you guys come up with, so please share. There you go. I thought that layered font art was really cool. That's one of the things I was really looking into to start with, and what motivated me to do this series about text in Inkscape. The next video is about putting text on a path. Yes, like on a circle. Of the top and the bottom. George is saying, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of the series. Bye. There you go. Is the printer done calibrating now?
We needed an outtake.
Stop staring at me. Really made me want to do this series. That was really still dead.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forgive it to Don't forgive. Don't forgive.
That should be an outtake too.